past 4 years in the role of Senior Project Manager and Consultant. Since joining in, Steve has successfully managed a number of large-scale, high-profile GIS projects for both the United States and international governments, as well as commercial enterprises. With over 25 years of IT experience, Steve has been a development systems analyst, team lead, and senior manager delivering complex business and GIS systems for a wide range of clients and industries. Like I said, that Steve was introduced to Jim and I by Richard, who has been a long-time colleague of him, and you might find GIS and hockey need to measure it. Just as a heads up. Thank you, Steve.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I can live up to the hype. So there's kind of a rush when you get up in front of stage, and so I'm going to kick it right into hockey. This is exactly like the start of a game when you're a goalie, which is what I play. When you get in your net, puck's at center ice, and they drop it in the first 20 seconds is pure panic. Why am I doing this? Okay? Then you look up, you make a save, puck goes in the corner, you look up 30 seconds, and you're like, okay, I'm into the game. I'm ready. So I think we're at the 30-second point, so I'm ready. So I want to start by thanking everyone for having me here. I'm actually really excited. This is probably the first time I've ever done this kind of a presentation, so hopefully it will go well. You can probably tell from my voice, being at the rink, I get exposed to a lot of little kids, also at the rink, and I get colds on a regular basis, unfortunately. So I've had them all week, I'm a little vocally challenged today. But don't worry, I have a backup plan. Dr. Lawrence said he would kick in and cover me. So we might put that to the test halfway through. Okay. It is a little intimidating, just a little bit, for me to be back in an academic environment because, growing up in school, I was, kind of an average student, didn't do too well. Except once. I remember distinctly once. I think it was grade 1. And the course was show and tell. And I got an A. And what I did is I brought in a really nasty spider, which freaked the teacher out completely, but all the kids thought it was really cool. So I think I should stick with what I know, which is show and tell. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay, we're going to look at a lot of pictures. We're going to look at some demos. We're going to stare at some shiny objects. And hopefully we'll have a lot of fun with this as we go, because you can tell I'm not overly serious when I present. So I think the best way to start is with show and tell, is of course to share with you my spider. That's what we would start with. Okay, a little more seriously, why we're here. So basically what I want to show you is a couple of examples of how one company has actually used GIS to take business data and make business decisions with it. And that's what I'm going to start with. And then we're going to take a look, as you know, at ESRI Maps for Office. We're going to look at how businesses might take GIS and use it, or individuals, in fact, and that's the story I'll tell. So we're going to look at a case study that this is a project that I ran earlier in the year. Started in, January. Went through about March, April timeframe. Big construction company. We'll talk about them first. What they did to automate map making. And then we're going to take an overview of location analytics. I think I'll go through a few slides. Just kind of, I'm a project manager. I'm not a product manager or anything like that. So none of this will get too technical. But I'll give you kind of an understanding from my perspective of what location analytics really means. It's a fancy word. What does it mean? I think if the timing works out, we'll stop for a little coffee break, and then I'll kick in and do the demo, which should be the highlight and hopefully the most fun that we have today. So any questions on that before I get started? Okay. Who is P.J. Dick, Trumbull, Indy, and why do we care? Well, they are a large construction company in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. They do about 600 to 700 million in annual revenue. They're one of the biggest construction companies in the Western Pennsylvania area. They work in Virginia, in the D.C. area, and mostly Western Pennsylvania. And they're privately owned. There's actually 7 companies or 8 companies. They've got trucking, they've got IT, they've got a whole bunch of things. But these are the 3 big, which I'll walk you through right now. So P.J. Dick is construction management. They do everything from prisons to hospitals to major banks. But the all-time favorite is they did the new Pittsburgh Penguins hockey arena. So there it is. And a cool story, when they were about 3/4 done, it was in the middle of the summer, construction crews, I think, were working actually down in the actual rink area, and about 7 or 8 of the penguins showed up with pizzas for the workers. So that was kind of like a highlight for all the workers working on it. So dear to my heart. Haven't been there yet. I used to live in Pittsburgh, but haven't been there. So that's PJ Dick. Trumbull is their heavy highway. So this is another award-winning the division of their company. They do bridges, they do major road construction, and the North Shore Connector, as you know, Pittsburgh has got 3 rivers, Leicester River Stadium. Little trivia, Pittsburgh has the second most bridges in the city in the world after Venice. So I was in Pittsburgh my first time, and I was sitting on my road, and I was looking at my map before I had a GPS, and I'm lost. And I realized the road I needed to be on was the one below me. I was like, okay, this is not a good situation. I'm way lost. There's an expression in Pittsburgh, you can't get there from here. And they actually use that. Police will tell you. You say, I'm here, I got to go there. And they're like, you can't get there. He's a good that. So I blame Trump. But the North Shore Connector was a really cool project. They brought in a huge drilling machine from, I think it was Japan. It was a huge, a big event. And it took like 3 days to go from the port to downtown. And then they spent several months drilling through from the center of the city to the North Shore and put a working transit system through there. So that's just to give you a flavor of what kind of level of kind of construction these guys are into. And then they had won a number of awards for their asphalt plants and laydown. So they basically do the whole thing, from building buildings to doing bridges to laying down roads and producing asphalt. So they, as all companies have been in the past 5 years with the economy, and especially with government cutbacks where a lot of construction work comes from through the DOT funding, they were challenged with how do we do better getting work, just like everybody's, because it's an expensive proposition. If you think what a construction company does, when they go and bid on a building, they may say several months to get the blueprints, they do all the estimating that's required. And then the margins are very, very thin. So maybe on a $20 million building, you might maybe a couple $1 million of potential profit. So the bids are very competitive. The industry is very tough. And they started to say, well, is there a way that we could figure out how to do better? Now, PJ Dick Trumbull is fairly unique in that they have built all of their business systems very, very integrated. Everything from employee tracking to time entry, to equipment scheduling, to equipment maintenance, to job tracking. All of that is done in a product called Lotus Notes. I've been Lotus Notes Domino. It's a very, very powerful, rapid application development environment. I know because I used to run the team that built most of their systems before I came to ESRI. So I know a little bit about Lotus Notes. And part of that whole suite of 50 or 60 systems that they have now is their business development side, if you will, and that's leads. So you get a lead, hey, we're going to build a hospital in Pittsburgh. We turn that into an estimate. Maybe we think it's $20 million or $50 million, whatever. If they're lucky, they get to propose on it, which is each one of these adds more information to the workflow. And then the bottom line is they want to get a job. And all of that is kept in Lotus Notes. And they started to think, well, could we take advantage of that? How do we take advantage of that information in a different way? And so they started to SWOT. They started to do kind of like a mental SWOT analysis. They started asking questions like, well, where should we? Where should we pursue our leads? Where have we been losing proposals? These kinds of questions, which are not easy to answer necessarily looking at a spreadsheet. Where have we won the jobs over the past? So if we're always successful in West Virginia and Pittsburgh, why are we wasting our time in Philadelphia where we constantly lose for whatever reason? Where are we doing estimates right now? Who's our competition, etc. So they started to see that there might be a spatial play. So some of the guys started to talk about that. Now, if that SWOT analysis didn't work, I think bringing in the A-team would be the only way. Because that's a true SWOT. Okay, I'm a child of the 80s, what can I say? All right, so their challenge was, how do we get information out of Lotus Notes and make a map? So they started by doing it manually. They would sit in front of the Lotus Notes system. There's some easy tools, relatively easy tools, that dump it into Excel. And they would get a consultant in, because they weren't GIS experts, of course. We didn't have GIS. They actually would sit down with ArcMap. They would manipulate the data. They would geocode it. They would produce a paper map, all good to go. It's not really a very efficient way to get maps, though. If you think about it, like I said, it's a manual process. It takes time. Basically, as soon as you make it, it's out of date. Right? If you make a map on Wednesday and you show it to your executive team on Monday, it possibly is out of date. And then it's not easy to distribute, of course. It's go to this PDF, you got to email it. There's no real easy way to centralize and get that information out there. So they came to Esri and said, well, can you help us? I said, sure. I think we make maps. Okay, of course. And they said, that's great, but here are the 3 criteria we really want. And this was kind of challenging. They said, we want the whole thing automated. So we want you to take our business data out of those notes and make maps automatically. And when we take the data out, we got to geocode it, and we'd like you to summarize it. We'd like some heat maps. We'd like to be able to see, very visually, where are we spending money, where are we earning money, where are we losing money, those kinds of questions. And do that all automatic, because I don't want to touch anything after you leave, Steve. And we want to make it simple. The whole company uses Lotus Notes. We don't want to teach business decision makers, executives, etc., a new set of tools. We don't want them to know how to use necessarily ArcGIS Online or ArcMap or anything like that. Keep it simple. Right? Give me a big red button. And then once you get those maps, make them valuable, make them something that we can use, and keep them up to date. So those were the challenges we had going into that. So this is a screen of Lotus Notes, what's called a view. It's a dynamic query that happens on the fly. So anytime you add new data into a Lotus Notes database, it just shows up. So this is an actual view of some of their leads, sorted by job type, I think it says. And this is the environment that they're used to. They live and breathe in this Lotus Notes environment. The buttons on the left give them different views. The buttons on the top are action items like add a new lead, add a new job. So we said, well, how about if we figure out a way to integrate the maps with your Lotus Notes, and we just add a new button for the view map on the top of their database. So it's just expand. When I click view map, I get a little drop down list of all the maps I have. I select one, and it opens up in a browser for me right within that Lotus Notes environment. So think of what's happened. I've just taken spatial data and I've put it into a map on literally the red button, the click of a single button, right, from an end user's perspective. And this is an example, and I'll talk about how we did this in just a moment. It's an example of their jobs data. And here the cartography that indicates the type. You can click on and off to show just individual. If you just wanted to show hospitals, you can click everything off. If you click on the item, of course, you get more information. Very, very simple to use, but pretty informative. And of course, it's live. You can scroll through it. Here's an example of a heat map where we've taken the leads and just summed them by categories of less than 25 million, 25 to 50, etc. And very quickly you can see where the activity is.
So the data that you have in the previous map, they're actually ESRI data or their data?
It's their data. It's their
data.
Yeah, it's all their data. So it's data coming from those nodes. So just hold 1 second, I'll show you the next slide, which tells us how we did it. Open the curtain. Okay. So here it is. So all their data is sitting in those Lotus Notes databases, right? Everybody looked at? You saw the screen. There's a thing in Lotus Notes. I don't know how many people know Lotus Notes, but there's a thing in there called an agent, which is just a way to do some back-end code, think of it like a bat routine or something like that. And basically, that agent, they schedule to run whenever they want. They happen to do this once a day. That was the for leads and proposals. They're not going to change every 15 minutes like equipment tracking or something, but they run it once a day, overnight, and it grabs all the new data basically out of the system. And it basically they have 2 servers. They have Lotus Notes server, they have ArcGIS 10 server. They grab the data out of the notes and they put it in an Excel file. And then we set up a geoprocessing application written in Python, essentially, that would geocode the data, summarize it like we saw by county and state. We built the MXDs up front for them. We load the geodatabase. And then dynamically, so this was pretty cool, in 10.1, we could dynamically update, we could stop and update the feature service each night. So that's the way that we get the information out to the web. And then basically we took those feature services, we took the MXDs, and made web maps on ArcGIS Online. We incorporated a template, so that screen I showed you, which is these, that interface is just taken from an ArcGIS template and we tweaked it a little bit. So we had to do very minimal coding to make this work well. And then they sit in their Lotus Notes world and they read their own data, but now they're seeing it visually. So we also secured it, so we put their maps into a group, which was a secured group. And we, behind the scenes, we used a token generator to make sure that that stays secure over the course of time. And that's how we did it. This was a prototype. So one of the kind of things that's really cool about this is this was done as a prototype. So it was not only all the criteria I talked about before that we could do, but it was like do it really quickly, just prove it can work so that I can go to management. Well,
it's brilliant because the interface is Microsoft Excel. And so virtually you could put anything instead of a Lotus Notes server that can output to Microsoft Excel, and it'll just plug in.
Right. Exactly. And we're going to kind of tie into that to the next thing. You're absolutely right. So this got Jack excited, actually, when I showed it to him at the end of the year, or sorry, at the middle of the year, showing what we had done. He was like, that's pretty cool. We should be doing more of that. So what's really cool is this was so in professional services, which I live and breathe, a lot of times people want a prototype, and the next thing you know, it's a production system. so that has challenges because when you define and design and lay out a prototype, it's okay, yeah, we'll put it on the old server, and yeah, we'll do a little bit, we'll worry about the user face. And then fast forward 3 months later, Steve, why does the user interface suck and it's really slow? I'm like, because it was a prototype, right? No, everybody's using it. We got to do something. So that's the world we live in professional services. But I can say it was a real success. We've gone from the manual washing and cleaning of the data to our automated system. I didn't think of a better way to show that to you. But what's really exciting for me is we left them the code. They have a small GIS team themselves because they kind of bought into it, so they incorporated a small GIS team into their world. And they took our code. Literally, we spent about an hour or two on the phone walking them through what we built, showing them that slide essentially. A little bit more involved in that, but not much. And they've taken a run with it, and now they're creating maps for Trumbull and Lindy as well as PJ. So you think of it from the investment that they made. Yeah, they spent some money with ESRI up front to get the prototype. It's now a production system for 3 companies with
self-sufficient
5% additional cost or something. It's like some really, really small amount. Yeah.
How flexible is that the process that you just if you want to incorporate demographics data or the ESRI data that ESRI sells? Where would you actually integrate that?
So if you just put a big red X to the Lotus Notes server, I'm sorry, Phil. I think Phil brilliant. Yeah. Basically, get it into Excel and feed it into the system. Because what we're doing, again, prototype, we actually delete the geodatabase every day. So in a real production system, you wouldn't want to do it. You want to just handle updates and deletes, and you wouldn't want to be blowing everything away. But the data volumes are low. So what are we dealing with? A couple hundred jobs, right? We're dealing with a couple hundred leads, not dealing with millions of records, anything like that. So it made sense, and it made it really easy, because one of the things that in the Lotus Notes world you can do is you can add fields to a form very, very easily. You basically just go in the designer, add a field that's there, now it's in the database. And they said, well, if we add an attribute, let's say we want to add job owner type or something like that to the job. They said if we do that in the Lotus Notes world, we want it to show up in the maps the next day. So the simplest way to do that was if you blow away the geodatabase every day and just rebuild it based on the input file, it's there. We didn't have to do anything. There's no manual stuff. So they're making changes to their core. So think how cool that is. They're making changes to their core data structure on their business system side, and it shows up in the map, and we don't do anything other than maybe refresh the pop-up on the back end. So making sense? Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, really, as long as you can define an Excel file, you can feed it through a loop like this pretty
That's the core of that.
It is at some level. I mean, all the pieces need to be there and work, right? But that's kind of the starting point. This was just a mechanism to get it there. Now, we could have used TXT files or something else. It just happened to be the easiest thing to get done.
Do they have the hardware in the back room, or are they through the cloud, or how are they accessing this room?
This is in their back room. So they own an ArcGIS 10 server. This, they took advantage of ArcGIS Online, and that's web cloud-based. And they did that again because prototype. We didn't want to spend any dollars or time building a detailed user interface and a place to store it. You know, over time, they might decide not to use this piece. They could certainly build a viewer and store it all here. So they've got total flexibility. This was just the quickest way to market, if you will, when we started.
So,
Yeah, yes.
I just wondered, is that commonly done to rebuild the geodatabase from scratch every day? Is that commonly done?
For small data.
For small data set can be done.
What about big data?
I don't think that would be recommended. I mean, it could be. I'm not a geodatabase, designer per se. Probably, if I was, if we were going to go back and now turn this quote unquote into a production system, we would probably do some different code to detect for changes, detect for new fields. We talked about how we could do that, and you could say a new field came in, mark it some way on the
Fast processes can build those things really quick.
right, and then you probably do updates and deletes as opposed to rebuild. Yes.
So the heart, if you will, of the data is Excel. How do you secure the Excel files themselves?
How do you what, sir?
How do you secure the Excel files themselves, since they're? It seems like that data, if that's the heart of the creation of the maps, that data is your weak point.
Okay, so let me address that. So everything except this is all behind a firewall. It's all internal. And the Excel files are sitting on an internal server. It's not the Excel files themselves that get exposed. They get manipulated, geocoded, etc. The geodatabase then creates a feature service which sits on a server behind the firewall. It uses secured access to ArcGIS Online, which then sits in a private group. So that's how it's secured. So that Excel is never exposed outside.
I'm sorry, I wasn't addressing the logical flow. I was addressing the physical data sets themselves. Obviously, depending on who has access to that data, how is that data, if it's being extracted from the Lotus Notes side and then being recreated in Excel, Excel is notorious for having corruption in cells. So how is the data, is there any kind of data checking going on between what is sent from the Lotus Notes server to the Excel file and back?
There is not, other than if it doesn't geocode, which happens a lot, because a lot of times they get, like a lead might literally be, we want to say, hey, we're going to be putting a bridge in Harrisburg. That's it.
Right.
So it won't geocode. So a lot of times they start with not enough information, no address information, no spatial.
Okay.
What happens when that happens is it gets captured in a log. So we write back to a log, which then feeds their node system, and they have a whole mechanism for how to review those, and they go in and actually manually. So let's say they have a zip code wrong, they go in and change it. So that part we are handling. As far as, did 10 records become 10 records?
Right, that's kind of what I was more concerned with.
Again, prototype, we did not get into that
Okay.
level.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like this is more of a push out of Notes into Excel, and once that push occurs, there's no authentication back to Notes to ensure authenticity or reliability or anything.
Right.
So basically, because this isn't, you're relying on it from a presentation perspective, but you're not relying on it from a financial perspective. This is a presentation. Is that an accurate description? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a DSS though. I mean, they're making real-time decisions. I mean,
Sure.
if it's wrong,
sure.
it's going to cost them.
And that's my concern, as you know as well as I do. Excel is like a time bomb,
But then,
time bomb.
if that's the case, then use something other than Excel. I mean,
That's what I understand. Don't get me wrong. I'm an IT person, so I'm going to drill this right through the floor here. When I see Excel, I think small.
Well,
Little?
Excel might be the wrong name. It's like they're CSV files, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Now I'm better.
So it's not really accelerating.
Yeah, you're doing pump.
Excel is just
That's my bad.
That's just your title,
Yeah.
and I understand that. Okay, now I'm
It's
better.
just a shell. Yeah.
I'm better, but still.
So we did explore, could we build an API directly in? And yes, but again, more cost, more time. That
Sure, and I understand it's a prototype, so you've got to move with what you've got to move with. Right, that's right there.
Where's the discussion? Get to the point.
So the good point is I learned something today. I got to change this not to say Excel anymore.
Or just
Which
put
is
.csv.
Depends on your audience. Depends
Yeah.
on your audience.
That's good. Thank you. And that, on that presentation. So hopefully that was at least an interesting view into a real-world
Oh, yeah.
situation. That,
Oh, yeah.
you might not think of plotting needs and proposals, and making those maps. So I just thought it was kind of a cool,
Very.
cool project, and that this is the only one that's ever been done at ESRI like that up to this point that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure the business guys do all sorts of stuff with business data, but not this way. Yeah.
One of the times you gave this presentation, you mentioned that Jack saw this as a pretty cool way where this company has never touched GIS other than very isolated points in the past.
Right.
And it got the whole company, well, one little division excited, and now it's spreading.
Yes. So now they're looking at things like down the road, how can they do truck routing through maps? And great news coming in ArcGIS Online in, I think, June. Will be like real-time routing analysis built right into ArcGIS Online, so they're going to be able to take advantage of it. So one of the debates we had at the start was, should we build a custom interface or should we do ArcGIS Online? And we said, well, ArcGIS Online is the future. If you hang tight with us a little bit here, maybe it's not the best interface right today, but coming will be all this functionality. And that's something that we can get more information to you, but there's tons of stuff coming on ArcGIS Online from spatial analytic capabilities. I can soon I maybe do it now, draw buffer zones in ArcGIS Online. I mean, that's almost unheard of, a year ago. Right? So all that's coming. Is there another question? Okay. I just wanted to give you these are someone else's slides actually. They're from the product manager for location analytics, and I kind of needed them out because there was lots of stuff that I didn't understand, so I kind of made it simple. But I thought it'd be good before we dive into ESRI Maps Rock to have a little bit of context of what location analytics means to the world at large and to ESRI in particular, and hopefully those two will tie together at some level. So some big words. ESRI analytics is basically adding intelligence to the data you already have from a spatial standpoint. So exactly like what Trumbull did, where they took their leads and their jobs and said, okay, let's take advantage of the spatial component there and do something smart with it. More and more companies we're going to see doing that kind of thing. And then for 5 seconds, I'll be an ESRI salesman, do it through the ESRI platform. Okay? So the reason, though, that I brought this set of words in is this is the key. So as we're going to see, we're not talking about individual software programs. We're talking about an entire concept, a way to get maps from A to B and have everybody view and interact in between. And that's really the directions I'm sure you all know from presentations from ESRI and Jack and the plenary and so forth. But that's, I think, a key that we want to keep in the back of our heads, even though we're going to focus on only one small component. So this is a common stat, apparently. There's something like 80%, and you from the business side probably know better than I, but there's a lot of spatial information out there that traditionally has not been accessed. And now we've got things like mobile devices, geotagging of if you think of Trumbull, they've got bulldozers out there that are all GPS tagged, so they know where they are at any given time. So all that kind of stuff is out there. And maps are now everywhere. If you think back to the 80s, okay, maps were not really, you didn't see maps on the internet the way you see them now. You didn't have, remember when the little navigation devices came out and they cost like $800, right? Because they were state of the art. And now you can get it on your cell phone for free. So maps are kind of everywhere. People want to know, what's happening in my environment, what's happening in my home, where's construction, where are my road closures, how do I get from A to B, which stores are open. All that stuff is now out there. And then, of course, when Google got involved, they opened the eyes to the public and the business. I didn't have to say Google, I just threw it out. But that was, kind of a start of, okay, we got spatial is going to be important. So there's a map. Well, that doesn't tell us a lot, right? So one of the things where we want to take spatial analytics, when we take location analytics, is beyond just dots. This is just an example. Here's maybe my customers, or these are tweets from shopping or something like that. But it gives you some idea, but it doesn't give you a lot of information, right? Because again, you guys are all business guys, you know way better than me. But these are just some of the questions you might be thinking about as you're running your own business. Where should I put a new store? Where am I at risk? what are the customers doing, what's my access points, et cetera, where are my distribution channels, all of that stuff are the kinds of things that you can start to think about with maps. So what, from ESRI standpoint, what location analytics are these three things. So we do rich mapping, which we're going to see, and you guys already know that our desktop product does, ESRI Maps for Office. It's what we're going to look at. It's part of this suite, and it does that. Analytics like buffers, overlays, all those kinds of things where you can get a lot more information, do graphing, etc. And then bringing into that the exact kind of question you asked, what about demographic information? What about population information, sales growth information? How can I merge all of that with my data and make better decisions? And we're going to look at some of that in the demo. Okay, so this is the suite, if you will, of our location analytics products. So we've got something for Cognos, which is an IBM reporting tool. We've got it for SharePoint. We've got, as you know, for Office, which is what we're going to look at, which is Excel mostly. And then we've got business analysts, community analysts, and if my internet connection's good and things go well, I'm going to show a little bit of community analysts. I don't know if everybody's seen it or not, but I'm going to tie that into my presentation at the end. And then, of course, we've got RTS Online, which at some level is now the heart of everything. That's where we're feeding everything. So what we're going to talk today, and this is really important, so we're going to look at Excel and PowerPoint, actually. But we want to remember that it's tied into RTS Online. And so, as you know, and as I'm sorry, but if he talks about, if you're going to get a subscription to RTS Online, which gives you ESRI Maps for Office as part of that. And we'll even look at the end of the presentation. When we summarize, I'll talk a little bit about what commercial off-the-shelf pricing is, and you'll see that it's not very expensive. So this plays to small business as well as large business. So I went to a Lotus Notes conference where I got a lot of people excited because Notes, there's a whole world. Notes has been dead for 30 years, but there's a whole world of Notes developers and applications built, and you can get stuff into Excel quickly. And so when you start going to a small business, and Lotus tends to be in the small SMB market, you get in front of them and you say, look, you can take this data that you never thought of spatially, dump it into Excel, and in 5 minutes, as we're going to see, I'm going to have a map. That really gets them thinking, and then you show them a price that small businesses can afford. That's well positioned from our perspective.
What does Lotus know about spreadsheet thing?
All right, so there's the spot.
Always long.
Yes, always. A huge sort of dedicated now to the rest of the players, as I call them. And I went there, and literally, my wife said it was like you were 6 years old at Christmas. Like you just wander around with your eyes about this big. And I said, but that's the way I always am. So, and she kind of didn't agree, just didn't disagree. So I don't know what that means. So one of my fantasies one day is maybe to move back to Pennsylvania when my wife's from Pittsburgh and open my own coffee store. So what I'm thinking is, why don't we use ESRI Maps for Office to see if we can figure out where the ice hockey rinks are and where some existing stores are and where I might put my store. So that's what our little fantasy story is that we're going to follow for the next little while.
Okay. Can I ask a question for context? Now, we're using Microsoft Office, right?
Yeah.
And we're using that as the presentation screen or the mapping screen, or I don't quite see the connection between that and ESRI.
Okay.
Or that and ArcGIS.
So what we're going to do, great question. So what we're going to do is basically, let's see this. So we have Excel, and we're going to see that it's got a new tab called ESRI Maps. And within Excel, I will be able to create and visualize a map, okay, just on the fly. So step one, a tool I've never had before, is the ability to create maps from Excel data right in front of me, okay? Now, behind the scenes, what it's doing is it's logging in, so you've got to have a password, and it's logging in to ArcGIS Online. It's pulling things like base maps.
Okay.
When we geocode by address or lat long, it's actually going to ArcGIS Online and using their geocoder, some little utility that's hidden in there. Okay, so that's step one. That's one. That's the creation of the map. Then what we're going to see is that we can then share the map. So we can port the map. We can take it and move it to ArcGIS Online. So if I have a group access in here, okay, then what that means is that now I can distribute this through mobile, through other users within my group. I can make it public. So that's the connection. So the idea is I don't have to sit at desktop, ArcGIS desktop, which, you know, is a very, very robust, super powerful program that can do all sorts of amazing things, but unless you use it all the time, it's kind of difficult, right? So your typical business student or the guy at Trumbull who did all that work in making those Excel files, he's not on ArcGIS desktop, but now he's using Esri Maps for Office to supplement his regular work. Does it make sense?
Okay, I was wondering how it got back. I understand now. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, and the cool thing is he's using an application he's already learned, for the most part, to do that, Excel or PowerPoint.
Yeah, so what we're going to see, hopefully, I hope it'll be very self-evident. What we're going to see in a minute is, as an Excel guy, so I'm not a Power Excel user. I don't really want to make pivot tables and all that fancy graphing and stuff. But, you know, I can track my budget in it and my goals against. So I have all that in Excel spreadsheet, right? So I know how to use Excel fundamentals. And that's what we're going to just do. We're just going to expand on that.
Well, and I also think that
You guys mind if I just close the door? I'm trying to hear you.
the most powerful thing that has been accomplished here is that we're taking the textual data, the zip code and the state, and automatically geocoding it, whereas in the past, we, the user, would have to figure out what the geocode was.
Correct.
Yeah.
That, to me, is the disruptive part of this. Because anything that can take a state and a zip code and geocode it, that's the disruption. That, to me, is the part of it that's really exciting.
Okay, any other questions before we go further?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my set. I grabbed some data from Community Analyst, which we're hopefully going to end up in. But I just went and got some basic Esri data, did a search on, did a little research and figured out the NAICS codes for ice hockey rinks. This does include roller rinks as well, because you do need to sell equipment to roller rinks with. So this is my ice hockey list of existing, let's call them ice hockey rinks for keep it simple, in Pennsylvania. And then we're going to look at the existing hockey stores, hockey equipment stores. And that didn't include, you know, Dick's Sporting Goods or, you know, what's the one down here, the big ones? Sports Chalet. Think of that one. I exclude those because they don't. I want a focused goalie or hockey store. So first thing I want to do is visualize, well, where are all the hockey rinks in Pennsylvania? So as you can see, there's a new tab now called Esri Maps. Okay. So to start creating a map, I'll just click on Insert Map, which will bring up a base map. And to start adding data, I can either click on the Add Excel Data, or I can just right-click, and I get Add Excel Data. Now, I have two tabs here, so each can do it by cell range, so I can select a bunch of rows if I just within cells. Or in my case, I made two tables, basically, that match the tabs. I have ranks and stores. So we'll load up the ranks down before it. Press next, because it's a demo. So behind the scenes, let me step back. In March and moving forward, this whole interface is actually being upgraded. We're doing a major enhancement to this product because it's been so well received, and we're doing a lot of work to take it to the next level. I kind of have a backdoor that intermittent builds, and I built one a couple weeks ago, which has occasionally burped on me. I was scared to get a newer version in case it had more issues, because kind of the way development goes, you break a bunch of stuff and then you fix it and release it, right? So I think I caught them right where they were breaking a few things. So if the geocoding doesn't work entirely, the workaround is that I'm just try it again. That seems to fix it. So I happen to have data. I'm sorry if they imported out by address, city, state. So I'm good to go. I'm just going to do it by address, but you can see if I had data by that long, if I collected something on a GPS recorder, or if I just later we'll go back and we'll just do something by state. We can do different kinds of geocoding here. So click next. We figured out that I've got the right kind of fields it needs. I'm just going to click Add Data to Map. And you can see over here, this is the step where it's now doing the geocoding. So it's going out to, and that's why there's delay. It's going out to ArcGIS Online, and it's going to geocode. And good to go. We got 119, and if you really think of what I've done, that took like a minute and a half or something, right? And I've gone from tabular data to spatial data. That simple. Yeah.
I guess I didn't understand, how did you get the tab ESR maps?
Oh, that's
ESRI maps.
Oh, okay.
How did that tab occur?
When you get a subscription to ArcGIS Online, you can then download the ESRI for ESRI maps for Office extensions. So it's an extension.
That's
itself.
It's an add-in or?
It's an add-in. You basically install it like you would install PowerPoint from scratch.
Can I install it on multiple computers?
Yeah, I believe so.
And is it installed on, do we know if it's installed on the regional computers yet?
It has been installed at 2 labs, I believe, here on campus,
It's really a licensing
depending
thing.
upon your interest.
How about the regional computers?
Not sure if we've rolled it out quite to the regional centers yet. Really wanted to see how this went.
And is it dependent upon the Office version, Office 2010 and above, or?
2010.
So it will not work. It will not work with older versions.
Okay.
Coming, it will work with Office 365, which is a big step.
I'm teaching a 683, which has I think week 6 we're doing GIS. And I would love to do this. That's 2 weeks from now. Is that too soon? Yeah.
I haven't. So,
I can send you a demo if you like.
Yeah.
so
If you're
is
stuck.
the credit issue been resolved?
I'm waiting. 4 days to jump on.
Is there cost perhaps in this? Will there be more credits?
So we're talking about, we'll have to talk about credits.
So
Yeah,
we had to come back to that discussion about how this works, and is there cost?
Is there any reason why I couldn't connect on my laptop?
No.
I don't want to interrupt.
I can do it on my laptop and
There's
project
a-
on the big screen, right?
This
Absolutely.
is tied to a university subscription. It
Well,
apparently requires credits.
It's this
And when
curriculum
we
right
reach
here.
our credit limit,
Yeah.
there's a question of getting more credits and
So-
such.
So a little just, I'm not.
So maybe.
They're still tied into a university account.
So can I go home this afternoon and log on at home and do this? Sure can.
You could.
And I should be able to do it from my laptop at school,
We
too.
can do a demo of it.
But you're locked
We
in.
have some logistical issues we have to talk about. But I think, why don't we let Steve keep going and show you, but we've been thinking about all these questions. We have some answers, but we have some questions we still have for ESRI about this, the cost. Right now, we have the ability to use it, but we won't be able to support 100 students. We'll run out of credits, basically. But we can talk about that later.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Those are all good questions, though. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to make the map a little bigger so I can expand it just by dragging it. And you can see I've got my points there in my hockey map, so that's good. Let's load the stores now. So I'm just going to right-click again and do edX. I'm going to do the same thing we just did. This time I'll change the selection to be stores. And I think I only found 12 or something like that. So we'll go ahead and add those. Okay, so that's great. I got stores and ranks, but a little hard at the moment to tell the difference between them. So if I right-click on ranks, there's a drop-down list that I can go, and I got some styling happening. And let's say we'll make them blue squares for this bottom, and we'll make them a little bit smaller so they don't hold along the screen. So if you think of what I'm doing, I'm just clicking like a typical Excel user, and I'm doing cartography without having to know anything really other than pick a color I like, right? So that's kind of cool. And then let's do the same thing for the stores. Let's style those. Let's do something we can see real easy. Let's make it, I don't know, maybe a big red flag. So I'm looking at this now, and I can kind of start making some decisions. If I scroll into the Pittsburgh area, I see, well, I see quite a few ranks. Well, they're nice ranks, and only a couple of stores, right? I scroll over to Philadelphia. There's Harrisburg. If I go to Philly, I got more stores. I still have a pretty good ratio, but maybe I'm thinking Pittsburgh. So let's kind of focus on Pittsburgh. That'd be good. Go Pens. From Pittsburgh. So what would be nice, though, is to get a little more information. So I'm looking at only my data. But what about all the data that exists out on ArcGIS Online and out in the world, right? So I've gone and I've done some searches, and I've stored. You can store. So if you do a search in ArcGIS Online for something like population, if you like that service, you can bring that web map in and you can store it up in your environment, a link to it, basically. So I've done that. And I'm just going to search by the word median. And in my organization, my little world, I've got 3 services that I've got pointers to. So I've got retail spending, net worth, and family income. So if you look at retail spending, I click add, And that's how simple it was for me to go get additional data. Remember when I put up the location analytics slide, there were 3 components. One was mapping, one was analysis, and the third was data enrichment. So here's an example of data enrichment where I'm going out and I'm adding some data that I didn't have moments ago, and it was that quick. So you can see basically high level, purple colors, top colors, darker colors are more spending, lighter colors are less spending. So it's kind of a drag though because it's overlaying my points. So that's kind of a bummer. So let's change that. So when we go to stores, if I go to bring forward and move them on top, and do the same for the ranks.
Can you overlay tapestry data?
I'm sorry?
Can you overlay tapestry data?
Yes.
Tapestry
Yes,
data.
yes, you can.
Yeah. Pretty much anything you can find on our GS Online you can do. We can change the base map too. I want to change the base map. I just go up here and I have a selection. I can quickly change it to
That's very much like that.
gray. If I want to change it, click or streets or something like that. Topographic. So now I have some additional information, and this is kind of interesting. So just a moment ago, so I'm trying to make a business decision, right? Where do I put my store? Just moments ago, I was focusing on Pittsburgh because I was like, I like the ratio. But now if we look a little more closely, if you go down to the Pittsburgh area, notice all the spending, the retail spending potential is all kind of in those middle to low colors, right? They're not real big spenders.
Pittsburgh's broke.
But if we go over, so if we go over the Philadelphia area, even though I have more stores, I've got a richer environment. So think about what I've done. I've just taken some really simple addresses, and now I'm making a business decision in 5 minutes. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think. All right. What else can I do in this product? Well, if I click on a point, I can see the pop-up. So there's the additional attributes that are really the columns across the screen of the spreadsheet, right? Or maybe I don't really want to show dates and SIC code because it's just kind of internal stuff. So I go back and right-click on links and do pop-ups. I can now configure these. So I can just shut off the SIC and dates code, or maybe I don't want to call it business because I know it's actually these are the ranks. So I know it's a rank. I click OK, and I go back and click on it. Now notice those 2 fields went away, and it now says rank instead of business, right?
Is there a size limit for the CSV file or Excel file that you can geocode?
In theory, no, but I don't know what it's going to depend a lot on your bandwidth. So if you had 100,000 records and you try to geocode them, it's possible to start getting into packet issues and stuff. I don't know. My understanding is there's no limit that I've heard of. So that's what I know right now. Okay, so we have our map. No. So what I'd like to do is share this map. So I want to do the next step. I want to take it and actually put it in ArcGIS Online because maybe there's some other things there I want to do with this. So let's go ahead and do that. So how do I do that? I can share either an individual layer. If I just click the Share Map button, it'll prompt me, and we'll call this Map Ranks and Stores. PDA. And to keep it simple, we'll just tag it with hockey so I can find it again. And skip the description. Now, I could share this immediately if I wanted to with everyone who has access to ArcGIS Online. Or I can share it within my organization. And if I was a bigger company or, like, say, a government agency, like the EPA, for example, they have multiple groups. They might have people focused on soil, on lead contamination, on water, on air. They might want to share this map within that individual group. So I just don't happen to have any. But if I did, if I was a member of different groups within my organization, I would see those groups there, and I could share in one or more of them. Let's click Next. It wants me to name my 2 new layers. It doesn't need to share the 2 things, the background map and the retail spending that we pulled in. Those are already services out there, so I don't have to do anything. And I'll click Share Map. And you can see that it's doing an upload of these 2 layers right here. You see, it's hard to see from the distance, but there's a little green arrow that's kind of moving, and there's a little sharing map action going on down here. So this will take a minute because it's got to load everything up to ArcGIS Online. We're doing all this real time.
So it is not sending, or it's not sharing that retail spending?
No, because that's already out there. That's where I pulled it from. So I'm really just pointing to a service. So somewhere out in the world. Yeah, somewhere out in
The
the world.
group that pulls that up will see that though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's social. So somewhere out there in the world, there's a
Gotcha.
server which has the service for the retail spending, and this map and this map will point back to it. Yes.
I'm just trying to understand, how is it different from the VAO, traditional VAO, where you can actually export an Excel file and then pretty much do everything you just said.
So the big difference in my mind is that this is aimed at people who are non-GIS users. That's really the key in my head. This is aimed at people who are business people and everyday people who just want to take Excel data. They don't have to have ArcGIS licenses. They don't require. So it's very inexpensive. They're not going to be business analyst is not inexpensive at some level because of all the data that comes with it.
Yeah, but you won't be able to actually do a lot of stuff other than just geocode your address unless you actually have access to
Correct. So
real data. Right?
So remember, I said this tool is a member of the whole suite. This is not intended to do everything by any stretch of the imagination. It's not intended to replace ArcGIS Desktop. It's not intended to replace business analysts. It's really meant, at least in its first incarnation, and there will be more coming, but it's meant to be a simple tool.
It's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
In my mind, what you just said is probably more important than even the content, which is helping our students understand that there's a different tool for a different thing. And so as they understand, because, in a 683 class, certainly in a 433 class, we have a little more time to go into depth, and this in a 683 class, I want them to walk out and say, okay, there's 3 tools or 4 tools that we've, talked about. VAO, we've talked about ArcGIS, ArcMap, and we've talked about this product here. And if they can walk out saying, oh, okay, I understand. So this is like an ESS. This is an executive support system. If you have the data already, and you just want to take your present spreadsheet and use it, then this is the right tool. BAO is when you don't know the answer and you're trying to go out and find the answer and you don't have any data. So here's a whole store of data, and then of course ArcInfo being
I think what Phil is saying is they could go to class Wednesday night, and on Thursday they could be productive.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not going to be the case with desktop necessarily, because it's so robust.
Well, I don't care. Actually, I don't care if they're productive. I just want them to walk away saying, "Oh, okay, I know what these 3 tools are. Where they go."
Yes.
Whether they can use them or not, that's on them.
Just the comment is that you don't have very many spatial analysis tools. What you do have, though, is you have Excel numerical analysis tools. So, and this user base would be somewhat familiar with those analytical tools, statistics, etc., in Excel. So what's missing is things like buffering and spatial.
Okay, so here's the cool part. So here's where I get to be cool. In May, I'm not cool very often. In May is the next big release of ArcGIS Online, May or June, I guess, around the UC, will be the next big release of ArcGIS Online. So those tools, buffering and so forth, are going to be in ArcGIS Online as part of the core product, which means, once they want to get it, if you just let me get there, once we get it into ArcGIS Online, we don't have that yet, but then we're going to be able to do that kind of buffering, and so now we've taken the novice user another step forward with our core products. And remember at the start when I was going through the PowerPoint presentation, I emphasized, I hope, that this is a platform. There's all these tools working together, and we're just looking at bits and pieces of it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Wow, you are cool.
Thanks.
And earlier, we were discussing about adding GIS to the MAM program, and I can really see, whereas if I was trying to demonstrate BAO in the MAM program,
What's the MAM program?
that's our Master's of Arts. It's a Master's of Arts degree in management.
Oh, okay.
And so the people in the MAM program generally are senior leaders, directors, managers already. They're the decision makers.
Great.
And Phil or someone said, ESS, this application would be at that level.
Right.
The unstructured decision makers. Whereas BAO may be your technicians, your knowledge workers. And so I can see that they overlap in some ways, but I can also see that they have various purposes. And I teach in MAM, MBA, and MSIT. and each one of them serve a different
And so you get a really good point. So the team at Trumbull and Lindy, so they have their automated maps, which are for their executives in the one click we talked about.
Right.
But they've got a couple of people using this product. They're going out to government sites and finding leads and stuff like that, pulling those down into Excel, independent of the whole Lotus Notes world, and creating some maps. And Vliet putting those in ArcGIS Online and showing them as well. So it's both worlds, and they're different intents.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely.
And I'm catching them even earlier in the BAM program,
Right.
okay, in the 232 class, which is data analysis and decision making, and we're 4 weeks in, and they have just created their own demographic database in Excel that looks just like the one that was under
And
the
then you
map.
take that and put it in a map.
So I get them hooked early on, knowing
Right.
that this is available. They don't have to be experts at it, but they know, so get them into the spatial thinking, even back there where nobody has any of the background.
So, is this available across the whole Office suite, or just in Excel? Or
It's in Excel, and you'll see PowerPoint in a little bit.
not in Access?
No, not yet. No. I don't know if there's plans for it or not.
Right.
I can find that out for you, but
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Just curious.
Okay.
But Access exports as CSV, so
Right, yeah.
so
So
you
this
could just take that
probably-
CSV and
Right, but not this kind of interactivity, though. I mean, or interactive
Right.
Not
integration.
yet.
Right.
I think first cut was exactly that. Was well, just dump it into Excel and then you can go. I
Right.
think. But
Yeah.
We'd have to ask the product manager
Yeah.
what their plans are. I just don't know that.
But if you were to survey top-level managers and ask them, what's the tool you use most often?
Excel.
This is the this is 90% of the market right
And
here.
let's remember, this is the very first.
Access is 20%.
Right, exactly. 100.
You guys have been used to seeing our map and even AGOL, multiple versions. This is the first cut, so clearly we're not going to get it 100% right the first time, and that's what we're looking for is next.
So
And we want to teach it this week.
Tuesday.
Right, Jack? Tuesday night he's teaching, so
Me too. Yeah.
Monday.
My addresses are actually.
Then you'll get errors in the geocode. So the question was, what do I do if my address is wrong? What'll happen is you'll get an error, and it'll say fix errors, and you can click on it, it'll take you to the row, and then you can look and say, oh, I got the zip code missing, or whatever the case may be. I mean, if there's no easy way if you don't have the data at all that's right, kind of thing, but we think that's how it tries to help with that.
Does it also take lat long data?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, any other questions before we go on?
So you've made this shareable, right, at this point?
I haven't, I'm getting there, almost, yes.
Can you click on your Excel tabs on the bottom? I want to see how you itemized it as far as see your tabs, your ranks and stores.
Right.
When you click on stores, you're just having the store's name and the address? How are you?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing? Okay.
Yeah, basically the same thing from beginning to end.
Okay.
So you just click on insert map, right? From that data.
Yeah. So I was in the Ranks tab, and I started by clicking Insert Map, and then once I got Insert Map, I right-clicked on the
Doesn't
map.
work for me for whatever reason. I don't know.
Really?
We will have an exercise right after.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we'll have a chance to play around with it.
Okay, so if we can see from while we were chatting, everything was running, and you can see it says map shared successfully. Okay, so let's go see if that actually happened. So we'll go to ArcGIS Online, and I'm going to sign in. Documents, so we're getting ready. My ability to talk. And this is, we have a little sandbox, play area for the people in my professional services group. I go to my content. Has everybody seen ArcGIS Online before, or at least has some idea what this is? Okay, it's just a web-based tool that allows you to share and make maps. If we sort by modified data, you can see that we have a number of things happen. A feature service was created for each of the links and stores. The actual CSV data that was in my spreadsheet got moved up so I could share that. I could share the feature service, and an actual web map was made. So if I click on that, there's our map. Let's open it up and let's have a look at some stuff. So, some of the things I can do is let me search for some layers. So across the ArcGIS Online, maybe I want to find something about population to supplement the map I've made already. And if I look here, one that's older than 50. Oh, it's living there. We spotted Chet. There's one about population is over 50.
Older than 50?
Older than 50.
I'm older than 50. I'm not going to any hockey stores.
So am I. Well, I don't see the population.
I was thinking 25.
So real quick, I got a funny for you on that. So I'm in the change room, I got the pads on, I got the stuff on, and we play music before the game. And I play with guys who are pretty young. And I'm like, they put on Talking Heads, so anybody knows the 80s Talking Heads was my group. Woohoo! And so I'm dancing in the change room, right? I'm doing my thing, and they're all like, all these kids are looking at me laughing. And I go, listen, you punks, this is how we did it in 1985. I was rocking the music. I'm hearing the noise from you guys. My captain, Steve, yeah, I wasn't born in 1985.
Most of our students.
They probably want to do it to rap music.
All right, well, I don't have a population.
Most of our students
over 50 here.
I have to be careful about my.
There was one older than 64.
Older
than 64.
Yeah, I mean, that might work, but I was trying to find out. All right, well, it's a little bit hit or miss, but if we bring in something that might be worth it. Well, we'll go with the over 64, but that was really what I wanted. So let's go ahead.
Think of it this way, you could do really well in that league.
Sinatra, now that was a singer.
So then they said, Steve, my father was a gone at that time.
So when I had the over 50 one, I apologize not being able to find it here. What it was interesting to show you is if you go to you can turn these layers on and off. So there's the retail spending, and there it's overlaid with the population, and the darker colors are the higher density. But the over 50 was interesting because they're right. It's quite heavily populated in the Philly area. There's a lot of over 50 here. So if I was putting my store in, you know, I've got two things now that I can think about. I've got a population that's over 50. I've got quite a few hockey rinks, so there must be a lot of older guys playing like me. And God help us, we all need equipment and we need good stuff, right? Now, but if you think about my store, now it's an easier sell to say, okay, I'm going to go to Philadelphia, and which is really hard to do when you're a Pens fan like my wife. She'll kill me. But we're going to go to Philadelphia, and we're going to set up a store where I'm going to carry high-end equipment for a richer, older population. So, I mean, I'm kind of making this up as we go here, but you get the idea how I can start to take these different pieces of information, think spatially, and start making some decisions.
Where's your colored legend on there?
Oh, it's over here. So, what's your end? I pulled in this over 6 hours. There's the retail spending in there. Darker figures of higher concentrations. They've got, so they had actually quite a high over 50, but apparently everybody died at 60, apparently. They're there.
Too much hockey.
Okay, so I'm going to, just for the sake of this map, I'm going to shut this layer off. But what I do want to do is I think, you know, when I'm looking at this, I can set the transparency here. So now I can see the rows a little bit and get an idea where I'm looking at. I could have done that in ESRI Maps for Office as well. So go back to the ESRI map. I can set the transparency here as well. Right, so we can get a better idea. So there's those two. So what I want to do now is I want to mark a spot where I think I want to do more research, and I think I want to put my store. So if I go to add, I can do a create an editable layer. We've got a bunch of templates for different types of editable layers you can put in. I'm going to just keep it simple, do a map node. I'm going to click create, and now I've got a push pin. So I'll click on that, and I think I'm kind of looking. I've got a lot of links down here. Pretty good income, not too close to a store. So maybe right about here. I'll put my point. We'll call it Steve Store. And we'll just say and then here I can change the symbol a little bit, so I'll keep it the same pin, but I'll just make it really big so we can see it. And then I'll go ahead and I'll save this map. So now we've got an idea where our store is. So the next thing I got to do is I got to get some investors, or I got to get my wife's buy-in that this is all going to work, right? So I need to put a PowerPoint presentation together. So let me go back to Excel. And I want to kind of build a little story. Yes.
Quick question. So if I make changes through the online, will it re-update my Excel spreadsheet?
Not yet. That's actually a frequently asked question, and I suspect that I'm hoping the product has heard it and they're going to do it. Yeah. The thing you can do is you can save your map and export the map to CSV and bring it back in, but there's not a direct correlation where it'll just automatically update it for you at this point.
So respect to.
Yeah, exactly. So let's I'm going to go ahead and shut down this for a moment. Shut down my PowerPoint. Oh, darn. Shut down.
You shut down the spreadsheet.
Let me go back over this real quick. We get to do it again. Sorry, guys.
You saved it, so you should be all right.
I don't know where I saved it.
Should be in your frequent.
To click on file, it should be in your recently viewed.
Yeah, because I saved it. I actually saved the.
Yes, you did save it.
Okay.
So if you go to File, Open.
Yeah. Thank you.
Reasons.
There you go.
Okay, good. Oh, thank you. Well,
You have to have that stuff at your fingertips, right? It's like you got students in front of you and you got to recover. You got to have all those things in your back pocket.
What I'm going to do is just click the slide button, and it will dynamically take a picture of this. There it is.
Oh, that's cool.
It created the slide for me. Stuck it in my existing presentation somewhere. That's what I was trying to close it with now. But we'll go with this for now. And we'll call it these were the links. Stores in PA. So we'll save that. Now, there's some other things I can do in Excel. So let me shut off the detail spreading for a moment so we just focus on the points. Maybe I'd like to just kind of get a sense for where the concentration of the links are. And it's kind of obvious, but let's use that as an example. So if I click on links here, I can do something called a heat map. So I just click add heat map. And very quickly now, I got a very powerful visual of where links are in Pennsylvania, right? So maybe I want to save that one. So I'll create a slide on that. And if we go back here, we should have a second slide. So this is my heat map. Go back to Excel. I'll shut the...
So when you mentioned earlier that works with Excel, it was only to the extent of automatically creating slides, right? I mean, I meant the PowerPoint. It's just to the extent of automatically creating a slide.
Not quite. We're going to get there. There's a little more, but mostly yes. But you'll see what I mean. So one other thing I want to show you is if we look at the stores, let's say, another way you can visualize that is by clustering. So if I click clustering, it actually just kind of gives me numbers, and it's a different way to visualize it. And then I can click on the little dots and get the pop-ups, right? So let's save a slide to this. So we'll do share here.
Sorry, the numbers are the number of stores in that
circle.
In that circle.
I think we'll do up to 10 at a time, then it'll break it out after that.
So when you import these images, that dynamic like what you just showed, or just static ones?
Oh, so we're going to get there, almost. These are static, but we're going to do a dynamic one. So here's, this was the cluster. So we're in PowerPoint. Notice I've got an ESRI Maps tab in PowerPoint. And I can do what's called add a map slide. So this is where we're going to now create a dynamic slide. So I go into my content here. Oops, try doing my search. My organization. Type in hockey. If everything's worked, we will be able to pull in our hockey map. So open it. So you can see it's now going back to ArcGIS Online to get it. And look at that. There's our map. Okay? So that's pretty cool. So let's make a little bit of a legend. So this was Steve's store. And these were the other stores. Rinks. Okay, so I'll create the map slide. Close this out. Now, if I go and run the slideshow, we'll run it from the current slide. Go back here. So here are our maps that we just made, right? I mean, think about what I've done very quickly. Created my slide presentation, and now I have, as you just asked me, now I have a dynamic map. So now when I click on it, and I click in the map, I'm in an actually moving, working map. So now I can do a presentation, right? And I can say, okay, here's where I want to put my store. So my investors are all for it, but I still have to convince my wife, who doesn't want to move to Philadelphia. So how do I get to assure her that the area is going to be okay if we move there?
Where's the mall?
All husbands do, you lie.
So what I'm going to do is go to community analysts, which I think you guys have seen community analysts a lot, but maybe you haven't seen this piece. So just let me kind of tie everything together and then almost done. So community analysts, as you know, it comes with a whole bunch of information, demographic information and other information.
Well, from a political point of view, you didn't choose a very good example.
You can pick, like say EPA enforcement cases, and very, very quickly create heat maps with that. And that's how easy the tool is to use at some level, right? So that's what community analysis is. It's just reams of demographic data. It's being updated regularly. There's a new update coming out soon.
Do we have access to the community analysts through this? What we just did today, what we signed up?
No, community analysis is a separate tool, separate product that we have licenses for.
But if you're licensed to use BAO, you can get into CAO as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of very similar. So the only difference is the business analyst one has way more business data, and the community analyst has more demographic and community type information in it. So I'm going to go to my layers, and I'm going to shut off the one I just turned on just to keep the map simple. And I'm going to go over here to more maps. And I can go browse ArcGIS Online, so I can bring in information into community analyst. So that should tell us that if I go to my content, here's my Rinks store. I brought it in. So now I'm in community analyst with my map. Remember, I started in Excel. Now I'm way over here in community analyst. I scroll in just a little bit. I can click this button here that allows me to turn this into a site. As close as I can to the tip. Save store, I'll convert it to a site. And very quickly now, think about what I've done. This is soon I won't need community analysis, I'll do this ArcGIS Online. But now I could do like a drive time and say, show me the drive, show me the area that's close to where my store is going to be in 5, 10, 15 minute increments, okay? So there it is, and if I click on this now, I have access to all the reports that are in the community analyst. So very quickly I should come in here, and maybe here's my H50 plus profile I might want to run. I'll run it now. Sometimes I have issues with the build so sometimes I have to run it twice. But what I'm really trying to get is now I could take all of this demographic information. I could go to my wife and say, okay, we're going to move to an area with low crime rate, high income, no Flyers fans.
Is there a pocket of Republicans in there somewhere? Is there a pocket of conservative somewhere?
Let's see if this worked the first time. It said something else. Yes, it did. So, you have access to all this kind of information now, both by the 5, 10, and 15-minute drive time. So, we've basically gone from a static Excel spreadsheet all the way to figuring out using ESRI's demographic data where I'm going to put a store. And I know it's a silly example, but I think it shows you the power how all these tools can work together very, very easily. So I just want to finish up then with a PowerPoint. Let's just real summarize real quick here. So what did we just see? Just as a recap, which I think would be a nice sort of segue into your hands-on in a moment, right? So we saw that we have access to all those base maps and all those other maps that were out there, like the median income and the population that we pulled in. We saw that we can do, I just thought of something I didn't show you. So let me actually close this map. So one of the things I didn't show is how you can make a heat map in here. So we just looked at plotting points, right? We didn't do any kind of heat map. So what I can do is I can insert a map, and just like before, I'm going to add Excel data. I'm going to use either home or Lowe's. And this time I'm going to do it by, let's try zip code, like next, and I will add the data by zip code. So I can see that now the data's been summarized. Basically, is adding up all the. I should have told you I'm doing number of employees by zip code, right? It's basically stored out all the information by zip code. If I then go to home and do grouping, I click yes, and I do it by number of employees. And let's make it really simple. Let's have 3 levels, and let's make it red and green. So just like that, in like 6 clicks, I made a map that gives me a really quick example of where are the big stores, where's the concentration of something, and this has to be number of employees per store, but if this was dollars spent by month or whatever, very, very quickly. So that's actually a cool feature that I forgot to show you. Sorry about that. That's the color map piece. We saw that we could do our styling, right? We could do the blue squares and the green flags, etc. We just saw that we can do the grouping. You can geocode, obviously North America, Europe, Australia is where the majority of the geocoding accuracy is, because that's where the street and so forth data is. You can easily do the summarization like we did by zip code or by postal codes. Yeah.
Back to the geocoding. I noticed that you've got multiple, you've got Europe, you've got Australia. So is that coming out of VAO? Because in VAO I noticed that you now can do Canada, but I didn't notice that you could do any other countries.
So the geocoding is a utility within ArcGIS Online, and it's based on address, geolocator, address information that is fed into it. So I don't know if business analyst is using a different geocoder or not.
Okay, because in the past you could only do USA. Now it looks like they've added Canada.
So the stuff they're adding to Canada is more the demographic and business data.
Okay.
So you could always geocode Canada, right?
All right.
But now they're adding that data, so that's a different thing.
Yeah, geocode is actually a global.
Okay, so you can
You can
geocode.
geocode any country.
But you just can't bring the data sets in.
Yeah,
That's the data sets
that
that
we
are
have
okay.
right now is for Canada and the US,
Okay.
and they're adding Europe.
Because that's one of the reasons I demo Gapminder in the Vliet 683 is because of international data. Trying to bring international data into the
Yeah, they're adding Europe, I think, UK and Australia this summer.
So then that's more the demographic business data. As far as this is just talking about the geocoding itself.
Okay.
And so we just saw that we could summarize data by region. or by country. One of the things you can do if you had sales regions, let's say you were you were like FedEx or something, and you had sales regions, you could set those up as a service in ArcGIS Online, and you could bring that service in and do what I just did with zip codes. You could do it within your sales groups, or say maybe like EPA might be, or USDA might be concerned about watersheds, so they set up a service of watersheds, bring in an ArcGIS Online, Esri Maps for Office, and do your summarization by watershed, so you can bring in your own regions. And then, of course, now that it's in ArcGIS Online, we saw we can share it. We can use it in community analysts, we can use it in business analysts, we can put it on mobile, because you all know there's free mobile apps where you can get to the web maps that way. So it's pretty much gone from that paper map that we started talking about with trouble at the beginning of the presentation to one map everywhere. We saw we can do dynamic presentations. There's one map everywhere. It does come in a lot of languages, so I've seen people turn it on, and I think there's a Chinese version and a Spanish version and so forth. And there's a whole bunch more coming in the next release. So I just brought these slides up. It doesn't really maybe apply to you guys necessarily, because you can get a free 30-day trial. So if you want to just try it at home, independent of the your university license, you can just go to the website. You go to the products tab, so that's the main home page, products tab. You go to location analytics, and there's an Esri Maps for Office link. And then when you get here, you can click on the try for 30-day free trial. And that'll give you an ArcGIS Online and Esri Maps for Office 30-day free trial.
Full version.
I'm sorry?
Full version.
Yeah.
Full function.
Yes.
So what we get through the license in the university is the same thing, right?
Yes.
Right. Ongoing.
Yes. That's correct.
This is to give students or the students if they want their own.
I think this is still, this is right from the website. It's a couple months old. I don't think the price has changed. As you can see, for small. Remember I talked about small business and the Lotus Notes world that I was involved in? You can see for 5-user licenses, $2,500 a year from a business standpoint. From my personal pocketbook, that's an enormous amount of money. But for a business, that's not too bad to get somebody started to do the kind of things we saw today. And then I just put this up. I sent obviously a link to this, but there's a little bit more information on location analytics online in this white paper. It's got a pretty good overview, so if you're interested in learning more, or maybe if you're using your class or whatever, that's there as well. Okay, really hurt because we wanted to watch Sidney Crosby, okay, one of the world's greatest players. We wanted to watch Jonathan Tays, okay, another great player. And instead of that, this is what we were forced to watch.
Is that so?
Yeah, that's me. So thank God hockey's back. That's